Hello there, and welcome to Play the Game with Steve. In today's episode of Beyond the Precon, we're going to talk about Nebula. We're going to take a look at her signature cards and what makes her unique in her mechanics. We're also going to talk about some of the significant changes we can make to her pre-constructed deck to make her that much more fun. And finally, we will take a look at some of the other hero packs or campaign expansions that can really take her to the next level. All this and more on the next Beyond the Precon, Nebula. Yeah, right. In Nebula's alter ego form, she is a 6 hand-sized outlaw with 9 hit points and a recovery of 3. She has a really cool response, which is called Cybernetic Upgrades. After you play a technique upgrade, draw 2 cards, limits once per round. Now, if you are familiar with the Galaxy's Most Wanted campaign box, we did see Nebula as a villain, which was very interesting. And if you're familiar with that, you'll see that her shtick resembles a lot of her villain cards, kind of the same way they transformed her from a villain to a hero. So it's very, very fun to see how it kind of plays into similarities to what she can do as a villain and what she does as a hero. All right, in hero form, she is now Nebula, a 2 thwart, 2 attack, 2 defense with a hand size of 5. She is a guardian. So what's fun about that is she's super well-rounded. She has combat protocols, which is a force response, which means after your turn begins, resolve the special ability on each technique upgrade you control, then discard each technique upgrade resolved this way. So all of them. So let's say you put 3 techniques down on your turn, and at the beginning of your turn, you will be playing. You will get rid of them and do those effects, which is pretty fun. It gives her a lot of extra things to do. Now, one thing to be just a little clarity on the rules. So it's only when your turn begins, and that's very important, because if you're playing in multiplayer and the other person is playing first, or if you're playing in a 4-player game and you're not the first person, there's a lot of fun things that you can do before your turn begins and before you have to discard those upgrades. So that's very interesting. Now let's go take a look at her signature kit and what makes her unique. So her hero kit is comprised of 8 technique cards, 3 sets of doubles, and 2 unique ones. So let's take a look at the first one, which is called the Wide Stance. And this is, while Nebula is in hero form, you reduce the amount of damage she takes from each attack by 1. Very interesting. So each attack, so minion attacks or the villain attacks, all of that is reduced by 1. Very interesting. The special on this technique is look at the top 3 cards of the encounter deck, discard 1, and put the others in any order. So this is very fun. So this gives you control of the villain's deck. So obviously in a multiplayer game, it's less impactful, but in a solo game, this is huge because you can decide what is going to happen to you. You can choose your fate. Love, love, love this Wide Stance. And the fact that it reduces the incoming damage from attacks, just money. Then she has 2 copies of Weapons Master, which is another technique. While in hero form, she gains Retaliate 1. If she has 2 of them on the field, she gets Retaliate 2, because these things are cumulative. And then the special on this is an attack, deal 4 damage to an enemy. Now, if ever you are stunned, you will just get rid of one of these and not resolve the special. So you'll cancel the attack because you are stunned, and you will just discard this and nothing else happens. But you do get to remove your stun. So 2 times here, so that's 4 damage. Then she has one of my favorites, which is called the Cutthroat Ambition, and this is 2 copies of this. And this is the reason why this is my favorite, is while Nebula is in hero form, her attacks gain piercing and overkill. And then the special on this is a thwart, remove 3 threat from a scheme. But what's important here is the subtleties is, while Nebula's in hero form, all her attacks, so her event attacks and her basic attacks, gain overkill and piercing. So this is very, very important when we are going to be thinking about deck building. This is a card that we can really, really focus on because it's just so amazing. So the overkill and the piercing, we'll talk about that a little bit later. All right. Now, she's got the 2 unique ones. The first one is evasive maneuvers. While in hero form, she ignores guard and patrol. And then the crisis icon, so that is cool. And special, she can choose to either stun or confuse an enemy. So again, giving her a lot of control on the villain. So finally, the last one is unyielding persistence. And then while in hero form, Nebula gets +1 to all her stats. And +1 thwart and +1 attack. Never mind, no boost on the defense. +1 attack, +1 thwart, and gains stalwart. That means she cannot get stunned or confused. Very cool. And her special is give her a tough status card. So these 8 cards here are very, very important to her kit because it allows you to build. And when you play them in Alter Ego, you play 1 to draw 2. So you're putting something down for free. So very, very fun. All right, let's take a look at the rest of the cards in her kit. So her resource card is called the Nebula Ship. So it allows you to exhaust it to generate a wild resource. Nothing special about that. We've seen a lot of resource cards, but it is a resource. It is not a hero resource. So that's super important. Combat Ready is one of my favorite cards of her kit, which is Alter Ego action, and you can only do this in Alter Ego. You choose 1 to shuffle up to 2 technique upgrades from your discard pile to your deck. So if there's ones that you're building around, you can go get those back, shuffle them in your deck. But this is where it's cool. You can discard cards from the top of your deck until you discard a technique upgrade and put this upgrade into play, then resolve its special ability. Now, I love that. Because you can attack and thwart in Alter Ego if you get the Weapons Mastery or if you get the Cutthroat Ambition. That's super unique and no other hero can do things like that in Alter Ego. So that's very, very fun. All right, and then finally, her last event, and then we'll talk about her signature ally. Her last events are the Lethal Intents, and this is a money card. Okay, so these ones, you want to kind of see them in the mid-game after you're not going to be taking your turn. So why is this so important? Because the cost is X, so let's say you pay 1, so the cost is 1, you pay 2, you pay 3. Hero action, choose up to X techniques, upgrades you control, then resolve each of these special abilities in order of your choice. So this is huge, okay? So let's say you have the Weapons Master that gives you retaliate, you got the wide stance, and then you got the evasive maneuver. So now you can stun the enemy or confuse him, and then what's going to happen? You can give him 4 damage, you can remove 3 threat, or you can look at the top 3 cards. And then when your turn starts, this is why it's cool to play Nebula in multiplayer. Before your turn starts, so let's say you're on the other player, you call for an action, and then you play the Lethal Intent, so then you get double the activations of all your stuff. So that is amazing. So Lethal Intent, a very, very powerful card that you should not ignore. Very, very cool. All right, so finally she gets her ally, which is Gamora, my Gamora, which is a 2/2 for 3. She is a guardian, and a response after you play Gamora, choose a technique upgrade you control, then resolve its special ability. Now, what's also cool about this is if you are in Alter Ego, it still works. So you can play Gamora from Alter Ego and still resolve one of the techniques that you have. Amazing. All right, so that's what her kit is. Very, very fun. One last thing I would like to just talk about is when you trigger these special abilities, they only go away at the end of the turn. So even if you choose to do remove the 3 threat first, the 4 damage that you'll do will still have overkill and piercing. So that's just a little clarification that I wanted to bring. All right, let's go take a look at her hero kit, her pre-constructed deck, and see how we can increase that efficiency. All right, so we got 9 reprints here in her hero kit. We got the 2 powers of justice, 2 heroic intuitions, the 3 double resources, and the first aids, 2 first aids. Which again, they're not bad. I like first aids, especially in her hero kit. They make sense. But I'm like, man, do we really need 2 of these? All right, you know. I always I'd rather have new cards to play with. But that is just me. All right, so we got a bunch of new Justice cards, which are really fun. So we got Justice Served, which is a max 1 per player. But if you remove the last threat from a scheme, you get to ready your hero, which is great. But after you thwart, so again, you can thwart with an action or you can thwart with your basic power, so that works. One way or another, which is a solo player's dream, you can spend one way or another to go find a side scheme and reveal it from the encounter deck. You do get to reveal the side scheme, so if there's a negative effect, like when revealed, it is revealed. So you will do all the nasty when revealed effects from that side scheme. And then you will draw 3 cards, which is pretty darn good. For Justice, it's card draw, and card draw is the lifeblood of any card game. Finally, Brains Over Brawn, our last event, which says after your hero makes a basic thwart, you deal damage to an enemy equal to your thwart. So again, not the best card because it's very going to be dependent on which hero. So if you can get your hero to 4 threat or 4 thwart or 5 thwart, then 2 for 5 damage makes a lot of sense. But if your hero schemes for or thwarts for 1 or 2, yeah, it's not as exciting. But it is a way to deal damage in Justice, so you got to be happy about that. So again, it's a situational card for situational heroes. Now, we have 3 new allies. We got Eros, who's a 2/1 that can confuse minions. Wraith, who is a beast against certain scenarios. Especially against villain Nebula. It says, when a boost card is turned face up, you can exhaust Wraith and deal a damage to him and cancel that card's boost effect. So just precision on the rules. So a card's boost effect would be the star. You would still have the 2 boost icons. Those will get resolved. So if he attacks you for 2, this is still going to attack for 4. But you would be able to exhaust him and remove the star, which says to give the villain additional encounter card. So very, very cool ability here. And then we have Venom, who's a 2 thwart 3 attack ally, super strong, but takes double consequence damage when he does his stuff. And while there's no threat on the main scheme, you reduce all consequential damage by 1. So that is really, really strong. Then we got Determination. So if you just bought the Guardian's Mad Titan Shadow, you've seen this card before, as well as Cosmo and Nowhere. If you bought the Star-Lord pack, you already seen these. And then the team-up card between Gamora and Nebula, draw 3 cards. So hero action, draw 3 cards. Very, very fun for her kit. All right, so the kit is pretty simple. You want to be able to flip up and down often. You want to often go to alter ego form, and then you want to use cards like one way or another to draw side schemes, to draw more cards, to be able to ready up fast, to be able to play your cutthroat ambitions and all that. These allies, you want to keep them alive, especially Venom and Wraith. You want to keep those 2 allies alive as much as possible, so that's why the first aids are there. Makes perfect sense. Brains Over Brawn kind of works with Nebula because she can go up to 3. And if she has her unyielding persistence, she can go up to 4. So she can thwart for 4 and then do Brains Over Brawn to do 4 damage. So it's interesting. It's not optimal, but it's still interesting. Now let's take a look at what I would cut to make this deck even better. Alright guys, so the cards that are not making the cut for me. First of all, Heroic Intuition, not making the cut. Don't need 2 of them in a deck. Next, Determination. It's just 1 threat to play a resource. It's not bad. It's just something I haven't really found the use for those. Cosmo, just because he thwarts for 1, yes, he can make you draw a card, but he's more of just a chump blocker, so I don't really think he's all that good in this deck. Aside from that, these Brains Over Brawn, man, they just don't do it for me. I just gotta find a way to make it more efficient, but just the damage comes from her kit with her weapons master techniques. They're really, really good. Then I would definitely remove 2 Justice Serves. Again, she doesn't really need to ready that much to be efficient. All her efficiency is in her technique cards. Since we don't have that many 2 cost, I would remove 1 Power of Justice. And then finally, I would get rid of, I think, one way or another. I don't think we need 3 in the deck. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Yeah, just remove one way or another. 2 is more than enough to get you all the card draw you need. All right, there we go. What would I replace it with? Well, I would add Daredevil because it's another thwarter for 2. The whole principle is going to be to stay in alter ego as much as possible. To be able to build up those techniques. So one of the good ways to do that, and because Nebula has a health of 9, I would add 3 Honorary Guardians, and this is a bonus card that comes in her kit, is a 0 cost, and you can only play it if you are the Guardian. So once you have that, you flip up and you put it on yourself turn 1, and then you can play the other ones even if you're in alter ego, because you will have the Guardian trait, which is good for Venom and Daredevil because you can keep them around longer, especially when you have those first aids around. Then, because again, we're talking about going down and staying down a lot, emergencies. I know you haven't seen me talk about these a lot, but this is a character, Nebula, that wants to stay down to alter ego and just build up her techniques to do some massive turns. So emergencies will help here. Because she has a lot of card draw, let's give her some more resource generation with an Avengers Mansion and a Helicarrier. That's just going to help us out. And then finally, adding a few more allies here that can help you out, like a Nick Fury and a Mockingbird. It's just going to round it up really, really well. So you'll have enough allies. You can keep 3 on the board, so you'll want to keep Daredevil, Venom, and Wraith on the table. And then you want to cycle Gamora, Eros, Mockingbird, and Nick Fury over and over for all their effects. So there you go. So that is it in a nutshell. Now let's take a look at some of those hero packs that can really enhance that gameplay experience. All right, so what hero packs deserve that can really enhance hers? There is only one hero pack that I can highly recommend to buy for Nebula, and that is the Black Widow hero pack. The reason why is the Black Widow pack allows you to stay in alter ego and offer the best type of control, which is control on the threat, just because of cards like counterintelligence. You also have cards like Quake that deal damage to minions when they scheme. So even when they scheme for 0, you can still deal damage. And when you add Agent Coulson, then you can add the Spycraft, and then you can add the Espionage, which will allow you to have more card draw. And again, deck thinning with Nebula is where you want to be. So there is no better pack. And of course you have like Stealth Strike and stuff like that, but this is the meat and bones of what you want to see in a Nebula alter ego deck. And then what's happened is this will allow you to stay in alter ego 2-3 turns while you get like 7 or 8 preparations out, techniques out, and then you just go in with your lethal intent and just restabilize and just devastate whatever the villain tried to do. So this is my one and only highest recommendation would be the Black Widow pack. Then I have honorable mention. So the first honorable mention is the Venom pack. Obviously, Venom came in Justice and did add a few nice cards for deck thinning. The side holster and the crew quarters. So if you're just looking to thin out your deck, these are really cheap. And obviously the sonic rifle that allows you to confuse with Nebula to go back down to alter ego. So this is a nice little choice for that. So those 3 cards from the Venom deck are what I would suggest. The next honorable mention is the Vision hero pack. Again, there's only 2 cards that I would really recommend to go with the one ways or another. The Chance Encounters, which would go get Nebula. Nebula can go get Gamora, and then you can kind of just trigger off of these in hero form and alter ego. So really, really fun combination between those 2 cards. But the card I like the best from the Vision pack is the Meditation, because you can exhaust Nebula while you stay in alter ego and play these higher cost cards like an Avengers Mansion, like a helicarrier, and just have more resources and just all these big allies that you can play for a lot cheaper. So offers you some really nice incentives. So, but those cards from the Vision Pack. And then finally, because I love Nebula and Aggression, because of her Cutthroat Ambition that gives piercing and overkill to all her attacks, my other honorable mention would be the Nova Pack, just because of Hone Technique and No Quarter. So basically, what you're going to be doing is just filling your deck with aggressive cards, trying to put those those techniques down, and then as much as you can, and then flip, and then just do some No Quarter to hit the boss directly, and then discard like 5 or 6 cards, and then just put all these cards in your hand and just do that over and over, and just really have an awesome time. Because of the Cutthroat Ambition, all of your things are going to have piercing and overkill. So if you're dealing 1 damage, it's not just damage that's wasted because of Nebula's overkill ability. It's all going to the face of the boss. So you're doing some combo technique things, and while you are damaging the boss, so super fun. But that will create some really long turns for Nebula. So it's better off in solo than in multiplayer, because then people are just going to watch you play. You are warned. So there you go. So those are my recommendation, guys. So guys, that's it. My 20 minutes is up. I think I went a little bit over again. Dang, Steve, come on. You can do this. So I just want to remind you, try out Nebula if you haven't tried her yet. She's great. Remember to leave your comments on this video. If you haven't liked the video yet, please push that little like button. It does encourage me to keep on going. Those comments are always appreciated. Subscribe if you haven't done it. And guys, just remember, have some fun and play the game. I'll see you next time. Ciao, ciao.